Tropic Thunder didn't film a war, it survived one. What began as parody became punishment. The cameras rolled on comedy and captured chaos instead. But behind the explosions and the ego trips, it was madness smiling back at the mirror. A 21-year obsession, born as a joke, swallowed by the jungle. A secret cameo so wild, it hijacked the spotlight. And reflections years later, from survivors of Hollywood's strangest war. These are 20 weird facts about Tropic Thunder. And buried inside the smoke and the satire, the jungle didn't break them, it exposed them. Number 1. Apocalypse Now had chaos, but Tropic Thunder had humidity, leeches, and mud that could swallow a man whole. Filmed deep in the jungles of Kauai, Hawaii, the production turned paradise into punishment. It was hot and muddy, Jack Black recalled. People got bit by centipedes. It's like getting shot. Jay Baruchel remembered 12 rainstorms a day and hikes that felt like boot camp. Crew members crossed rivers at dawn, hauling gear up mountains slick with moss. What was supposed to be a comedy shoot became survival training. Between infections, bites, and storms, even Ben Stiller admitted it felt like they were really shooting a war movie. The cameras rolled, the actors sweated, and somewhere in the middle of all that misery, Hollywood's funniest fake soldiers actually earned their stripes. Number 2. Jack Black almost didn't make it to Tropic Thunder. When Ben Stiller first offered him the role of Jeff Portnoy, a drug-addled comedy star trapped in a war movie, Black hesitated. It wasn't the chaos, the stunts, or even the mud that worried him. It was the hair. The script called for Portnoy to be blonde, a Hollywood chameleon obsessed with image. I didn't want to bleach it, Black admitted later. It just felt wrong. I fought it for a while, then I gave in. That small vanity fight set the tone for everything that followed. Once he stepped into the jungle, his discomfort became real. The humidity fried his newly dyed hair, the mud burned his skin, and during an early stunt, he bruised his ribs so badly he could barely breathe. There was no glamour here, just sweat, mosquitoes, and pain disguised as comedy. But instead of backing out, Black leaned into the misery. He hobbled through takes, grimaced through laughs, and turned exhaustion into performance. By the time cameras wrapped, he wasn't pretending to suffer anymore. He was suffering, and that's what made it work. His pain gave Portnoy's breakdowns a raw, unhinged energy that no script could fake. In a movie about actors losing themselves, Jack Black didn't have to reach for the method. The jungle handed it to him. Number 3. To make Tropic Thunder's chaos feel authentic, Ben Stiller brought in someone who'd survived the real thing, retired Marine Captain Dale Dye. Hollywood already knew his name. He was the man who'd turned casts into soldiers for Platoon, Saving Private Ryan, and Band of Brothers. When he arrived on set, the parody suddenly had discipline. Dye put the pampered actors through boot camp before filming began. Real drills, real commands, and zero mercy. They marched through mud, learned formation tactics, and slept under the open sky, all while Dye barked orders like they were heading to Vietnam, not a comedy set. It was meant to be a joke, but by the second day, no one was laughing. He made us earn our fake war, Jay Baruchel later said. The irony was perfect. The man who'd trained Hollywood for its most serious war dramas was now helping build its most absurd one, and he loved it. When asked what he thought of the film's over-the-top satire, Dye grinned. "It's ridiculous," he said, "but they got the rhythm right." Beneath the explosions and insanity, Tropic Thunder moved like the real thing, because a Marine made sure even the madness had order. Number 4. When Tropic Thunder went looking for a jungle, Ben Stiller nearly took the production to Mexico, but Hawaii had a secret weapon, Kauai. Its wild valleys, misty ridges, and tangled rainforests looked like pure cinematic gold, and the state's film tax credits made it even sweeter. Kauai had once hosted legends, Raiders of the Lost Ark, King Kong, Jurassic Park. But by the early 2000s, major productions had stopped coming. The island's movie magic had gone quiet. Then Tropic Thunder roared in like a rescue mission. Stiller's crew spent months deep in the terrain, turning paradise into a battlefield. Locals worked as drivers, builders, and extras, and the film's $60 million local spend jump-started the island's struggling film economy. They brought Hollywood back, one Kauai resident said, and they did it with explosions. When the dust cleared, the jungle had changed. Hollywood remembered Kauai and came running back. Within a few years, Jurassic World was filming in the same valleys Stiller's crew once trudged through, chasing fake soldiers instead of dinosaurs. Behind the jokes and chaos, Tropic Thunder did something real. It reignited the island's cinematic heartbeat. Number 5. Steve Coogan's doomed filmmaker Damien Cogburn wasn't a random creation. He was a dark echo of real Hollywood history. The character was modeled after Richard Stanley, the eccentric director behind The Island of Dr. Moreau. In 1996, Stanley clashed so violently with his stars, Val Kilmer and Marlon Brando, that the studio fired him mid-production. He was replaced, but refused to leave the island. Disguised in costume, he snuck back onto set just to watch his own film spiral into chaos. Ben Stiller, obsessed with the story, rewrote that madness into comedy, giving Cogburn the fate every stressed-out director dreams of: one giant explosion and peace at last. exist. In the real world, Stanley eventually resurfaced decades later with Color Out of Space, still haunted by the jungle that ate his movie, and inspired another one. Number 6. While Tropic Thunder mocked Hollywood's insanity, another film was quietly mocking it from inside. Co-writer Justin Theroux spent the shoot secretly making Reign of Madness, a fake behind-the-scenes documentary modeled after Hearts of Darkness, the infamous Apocalypse Now chronicle. Shot on handheld cameras, it followed Coogan's doomed director as he vanished into the wilderness, his cast descending into confusion and despair. Theroux interviewed the actors in character between takes, blurring the line between movie and madness, until even the crew forgot what was real. The finished mockumentary was tucked away on the Blu-ray, hidden like a classified relic. It proved Tropic Thunder didn't just parody chaos, it filmed it, dissected it, and laughed from inside the storm. Number 7. The idea for Tropic Thunder didn't start in a boardroom. It started with frustration. In 1987, a young Ben Stiller was acting in Empire of the Sun when he overheard other actors bragging about their boot camp training. They talked like soldiers who'd survived war, not a movie set. Stiller couldn't shake the absurdity. What if a group of self-obsessed actors really thought they were heroes? What if they got dropped into an actual jungle and couldn't tell the difference? He wrote the first draft in the late 80s, long before he was famous. Studios laughed him out of the room. Too weird, too risky, too expensive. But Stiller held on. Through the 90s, he rewrote it between projects, shaping the concept from a simple spoof into something sharper, a full-blown satire about fame, ego, and delusion. He wanted to make a war movie where the real casualties were self-importance and vanity. 2 decades later, DreamWorks finally said yes. The condition? Make it unmistakably funny, a parody that even the subjects of its mockery could laugh at. And so, 21 years after a throwaway joke on a Spielberg set, Stiller stepped behind the camera and marched into the jungle. What began as an inside joke became one of the boldest comedies of its generation, a war film about the war to stay relevant. Number 8. Tropic Thunder could have looked completely different. The first actor offered the lead role of Tug Speedman wasn't Ben Stiller, it was Keanu Reeves. He loved the script but hesitated at its insanity, calling it too wild, and bowed out before production began. Stiller, already directing, reluctantly stepped into the role himself, reshaping Speedman into a satire of every self-serious action star who ever believed his own press. But the biggest shift came behind the scenes. Owen Wilson, one of Stiller's closest friends, was originally cast as Rick Peck, the neurotic agent juggling his star's breakdown from afar. Just weeks before filming, Wilson's personal struggles made him unable to continue. Stiller replaced him quietly with Matthew McConaughey, whose wild charisma and effortless chaos transformed the role. His offbeat warmth turned Rick from a nervous handler into an unhinged comic savior, the only man who could out-crazy the jungle. In the end, those unexpected changes defined the film's tone. What began as a story about Hollywood egos became one powered by friendship, survival, and sheer unpredictability. Fate rewrote the cast list, and somehow, it got the chaos just right. Number 9. Tom Cruise was never meant to be in Tropic Thunder. Ben Stiller offered him a small supporting role, maybe a studio executive, maybe a background cameo, but Cruise had a different vision. He wanted to play a monster in a suit, bald, sweaty, and furious. What if he's this gross, angry guy who dances? Cruise suggested. Stiller laughed, then said, "Go for it." That's how Les Grossman was born, the volcanic Hollywood mogul who rants, curses, and hip thrusts his way through the film. The oversized hands were Cruise's idea. The dance, completely improvised. He rehearsed it privately, then unleashed it on set in one manic take that left the crew howling. He was buried under so much prosthetic makeup that test audiences didn't even realize it was him until the credits rolled. The studio tried to keep the cameo secret, scrubbing leaked photos from early press materials. But when the film premiered, the reveal hit like a grenade. Les Grossman stole every scene he touched and redefined Cruise's career in one wild 5-minute burst of self-parody. It was the cameo that didn't just steal the movie, it set it on fire and danced in the ashes. Number 10. Not every cameo in Tropic Thunder came with explosions or dance breaks. Tobey Maguire quietly joined the chaos for just one surreal moment, the fake trailer Satan's Alley. In it, he plays a monk opposite Robert Downey Jr.'s Kirk Lazarus in a melodramatic forbidden love story from the winner of 2 Academy Awards. Maguire did it as a favor to his Wonder Boys co-star Ben Stiller, slipping in between Spider-Man shoots. The gag was small but lethal, parodying Hollywood's obsession with awards bait dramas so perfectly that audiences weren't sure whether to laugh or applaud. For a film about actors losing themselves, it was the perfect touch. One A-lister pretending to be another pretending to feel holy. Feeling the heat yet? If you want to jump back into the madness, you can grab your own copy through the links below: DVD, Blu-ray, or even VHS if you're old school. Thanks for the support, it really means a lot. Now, let's head back into the jungle. Number 11. Robert Downey Jr.'s Kirk Lazarus wasn't just a character. He was a tightrope walk over cultural fire. Downey built him from fragments of real method actors: Russell Crowe's intensity, Daniel Day-Lewis's immersion, Colin Farrell's swagger. The result was a 5-time Oscar winner so obsessed with craft, he underwent pigmentation alteration surgery to play a black soldier, a joke so bold it terrified everyone involved. Ben Stiller knew it was dangerous. He spent years debating whether to keep the idea, rewriting the script to make sure the target of the joke wasn't race but ego, actors who would go too far for a role. Brandon T. Jackson's Al Pacino became the anchor, the voice of reality, calling Lazarus out mid-scene, grounding the satire in truth. Downey dove in completely, staying in character for most of the shoot, answering interview questions as Lazarus instead of himself. His performance balanced absurdity with razor-sharp critique, mocking the kind of artistic insanity Hollywood often celebrates. When the dust settled, what could have been a disaster became one of the most daring performances in modern comedy, proof that sometimes the only way to expose madness is to live inside it. Number 12. Long before Tropic Thunder hit theaters, the controversy had already exploded. The fake movie within the movie, Simple Jack, was meant to skewer Hollywood's obsession with Oscar bait performances, the kind where actors play disabilities to win awards. But when early trailers dropped, the satire missed its mark. Over 20 disability rights groups condemned it, calling the language offensive and the portrayal cruel. Demonstrators filled the streets on opening weekend, led by Special Olympics chairman Timothy Shriver, demanding the film be pulled. Ben Stiller was blindsided. "The joke was never on the people," he said. "It was on Hollywood." Co-writer Ethan Cohen backed him up, explaining that Simple Jack was designed to parody the industry's hypocrisy, not those it claimed to represent. DreamWorks even hosted private screenings for advocacy groups, hoping to ease tensions, but the uproar only grew louder. Ironically, the outrage proved the film's own point, that fame-hungry actors and tone-deaf studios will risk anything for prestige, even when they don't understand what they're portraying. Tropic Thunder didn't escape the firestorm. It walked straight through it, laughing at the madness while holding up a mirror to Hollywood's most uncomfortable truth. Number 13. More than a decade after Tropic Thunder, Ben Stiller looked back on the film with a mix of pride and unease. "You couldn't make it today," he admitted. "The atmosphere's different." At the time, he believed the satire was clear, a shot at actors so obsessed with awards that they'd cross any moral line. But years later, the context had shifted, and Stiller understood how easily the line between parody and offense could blur. He'd screened the film for the NAACP before release to make sure Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of Kirk Lazarus landed as intended, mocking ego, not race. But in focusing on that storm, he missed the other one brewing. "The Special Olympics came after me," he said. "I was blindsided." The Simple Jack backlash revealed how satire, once unleashed, can take on a life of its own. Stiller's takeaway was quiet, almost regretful. "You have to be crystal clear about your point of view when you do edgy comedy. For me, it was always about actors desperate for attention, but I get why people saw it differently." The laughter had lasted, but so had the lesson. Number 14. When Tropic Thunder finally hit theaters in August 2008, it didn't just survive controversy, it dominated. The $92 million satire exploded past expectations, grossing nearly $200 million worldwide and holding the #1 box office spot for 2 straight weeks, the only summer film besides The Dark Knight to do it. Critics were stunned. Stephen King called it the funniest, most daring comedy of the year. Paramount rode that energy all the way to awards season, even pushing Robert Downey Jr. for an Oscar nomination, which he got. He ultimately lost to Heath Ledger's Joker, a poetic twist for a film mocking Hollywood's obsession with statues. Downey laughed about it later. "The whole thing's about chasing Oscars, and then I get nominated for it." Tropic Thunder didn't just make money. It became a cultural grenade, proving that smart, savage comedy could still blow the roof off multiplexes. Number 15. The Jungle Militia Flaming Dragon wasn't pure fantasy. It had roots in real-world horror. Stiller and his team modeled the child-run gang after God's Army, a guerrilla group in Myanmar led by twin brothers Johnny and Luther Hautu, both barely 9 years old. Obsessed with Rambo and action movies, they commanded dozens of soldiers and were believed by followers to have supernatural powers. The image was both terrifying and absurd, boys leading men into battle with toy-like weapons and impossible bravado. In Tropic Thunder, that tragic inspiration became black comedy, a gang of trigger-happy kids who kidnapped movie stars instead of fighting wars. It was Stiller's way of twisting reality's darkness into satire, exposing how Hollywood war stories often echo the real chaos they pretend to escape. Behind the laughs was a grim truth. In some jungles, the fantasy never ends when the cameras stop. Number 16. For a war movie, Tropic Thunder is strangely bloodless. Amid all the explosions, fake deaths, and screaming chaos, only one human character actually dies. Poor director Damien Damien Cogburn, blown sky high by his own landmine stunt. Everyone else, they walk away. The only real casualties are a panda and a bat, both victims of slapstick survival gags. It was Ben Stiller's deliberate subversion of war movie tropes to make a story where ego and idiocy cause more damage than bullets ever could. By the end, even the firefights feel absurd, like children playing soldier with million-dollar toys. In a film obsessed with destruction, almost nobody dies, because Tropic Thunder's real target wasn't war at all. It was the machine that makes it look cool. Number 17. Jay Baruchel didn't need a script to sound like a tech-obsessed rookie. He was one. Between takes, he'd rant about HD resolutions, Blu-ray compression rates, and the future of home entertainment. One day, Ben Stiller told him to do it in character. Cameras rolled, and Baruchel launched into a passionate, semi-coherent monologue about pixel ratios and storage formats, right in the middle of the jungle. The rest of the cast could barely keep a straight face. The scene stayed, a perfect burst of authenticity that made his character, Kevin Sandusky, feel hilariously real. It wasn't acting, it was Jay being Jay, a geek lost in a war zone, fighting the enemy of bad resolution.
Split into schisms, some studios backing Blu-ray disc, others backing HD DVD. But you know, Sony, every PlayStation 3 has a Blu-ray.
You talking to me this whole time?
Number 18. Nick Nolte's haunted war veteran, Four-Leaf Tayback, was originally written as a full-blown homage to Quint from Jaws, the scarred, booze-soaked shark hunter who delivers one of cinema's great war monologues. Early drafts even gave Tayback a long story about the tiger in the river, mirroring Quint's Indianapolis speech. But when Ben Stiller realized Tropic Thunder was already overflowing with movie references, Apocalypse Now, Platoon, Rambo, and more, he decided to scale it back. The tiger story was cut, but Nolte's presence still carried that same haunted energy. A man who'd seen too much and learned nothing. Even without the nod to Spielberg, you can feel the echo. One old sailor replaced by another mad storyteller lost in a different kind of jungle. Number 19. Les Grossman was supposed to be a one-off joke, a two-scene explosion of profanity and rage. Instead, Tom Cruise's foul-mouthed mogul became a pop culture icon overnight. After Tropic Thunder, Cruise resurrected the character at the 2010 MTV Movie Awards, dancing alongside Jennifer Lopez and bringing the house down. A spinoff was quickly announced, written by Tropic Thunder co-writer Ethan Coen, then vanished in development hell. But in 2022, the idea roared back to life when Cruise reunited with director Christopher McQuarrie to produce a full feature built around Grossman. Details remain secret, but if it happens, it'll mark the rarest thing in Hollywood. A parody so powerful it outlived the movie it was mocking. The jungle may have gone quiet, but Grossman's desk is still shaking. Number 20. Tropic Thunder didn't end filming with explosions or emotional goodbyes. It ended with booty sweat. The last scene shot was Al Pacino's over-the-top energy drink commercial, shot at dawn on Thanksgiving Day. Brandon T. Jackson performed take after take in the Hawaiian heat, dancing, shouting, and hyping the product like his life depended on it. When the director finally yelled cut, Jackson sprinted straight to the airport, still sticky with fake sweat, just to make it home for dinner. The crew wrapped the film laughing, surrounded by empty cans and pyrotechnic smoke. Later, Booty Sweat hit real store shelves for a limited run, complete with its own merch line. It was the perfect send-off for a movie built on blurred lines. A fake drink born from a fake actor in a fake war that somehow became real. Bonus fact, could Tropic Thunder be made now? Not a chance. Not without a dozen lawyers, a crisis PR team, and a studio executive hyperventilating under the table. In 2008, Ben Stiller somehow convinced a major studio to bankroll a movie that mocked everyone. Actors, egos, studios, critics, even the audience watching. It was chaos disguised as comedy, and it hit every nerve on purpose. Like Blazing Saddles before it, it broke the one unspoken Hollywood rule: don't offend everyone at once. Yet that's exactly why it worked. People didn't just laugh, they howled, shocked that a blockbuster could be this reckless, this fearless, and still this funny. Today, that same script would detonate the internet before the first explosion ever hit the screen. Back then though, Tropic Thunder got away with it. Raw, loud, and completely unfiltered. It wasn't safe, it wasn't polite, it was honest, and that's why there'll probably never be another one like it again. Tropic Thunder began as a joke about pampered actors, and became one of the boldest comedies of its generation. It mocked ego, it mocked fame, and it mocked the absurdity of war movies that forget what war really means. Beneath the explosions and the chaos, it held up a mirror to Hollywood, and laughed when Hollywood blinked. 15 years later, it still feels dangerous, alive, and completely unrepeatable. If this wild ride still makes you laugh harder than you should, drop a comment. Tell us what fearless classic we should march into next, because the secret of Tropic Thunder wasn't the fake war or the fake soldiers. It was that rare, reckless moment when comedy went too far, and somehow got away with it.